Hi there, thanks for watching this talk on student accommodation here at the University of Leeds. So my name's Luke, I'm here from the accommodation office here at Uni of Leeds. And today is basically just going to be sort of an overview of some of the important things that we think you're going to want to know about accommodation. I'm going to try and cover as much ground as possible. We're going to go into a bit on the type of accommodation that we've got available, some things that you might want to know about the application process, maybe some things to sort of keep in mind while you're completing your application, and then just a little bit about what to expect when you get here. So some of the support that's available, some of the things that you can get involved with as a new student. So congratulations, first and foremost, on your offer to study at Leeds. We're really looking forward to having you. If you've been to one of our open days previously and maybe you've seen one of the accommodation talks, maybe you've seen me deliver one of those talks or one of my colleagues, some of this may be a little bit familiar, but I'll try and get into a bit more detail. Like I say, I'll try and cover as much ground as I can. But if you do find that there's anything that you still want to know at the end of it that we've not covered, just feel free to get in touch with us in the accommodation office. You can view our website, which is accommodation.leeds.ac.uk. You'll find all of our contact details there and some really useful information about the accommodation and the application process as well. So without further ado, let's move on to the guarantee. So we're in a pretty fortunate position in Leeds in that we can guarantee accommodation for all first years. So if you're new to Leeds, you are guaranteed accommodation, provided that you apply by the application deadline. And I'll touch a little bit on sort of what that means in terms of what the deadlines are as we get a little bit further in. But in a nutshell, it just means that your accommodation is taken care of as long as you get your application in on time. And the guarantee does count for everybody. So, if you are, local to Leeds, or if you're an international student or you're coming from really far away, you're covered by the guarantee equally. If you've got an insurance offer or conditional offer or unconditional offer, whatever the case is, as long as you get your application in on time, we will find you something. And so there are very few sort of caveats to that. You may have noticed the little asterisk on the slide there. The only things to keep in mind are we need you to fill out an application. That may seem pretty obvious, but it is worth keeping in mind. It is worth mentioning. You fill out your accommodation application separately from your application to study at Leeds. Again, we do need you to apply on time. We've normally got pretty decent scope to assist people that apply late, but strictly speaking, to be covered by the guarantee, we do need you to get your application in on time, whatever that means for you. We're not usually able to assist home students in kind of second year, third year. We have some reasonable little bit of scope to do that, but we can't extend typically the guarantee into the second year or third year unless you're kind of an international student. But again, there are some exceptions to that. That may be, for example, you're an estranged student and registered with the University Plus program, for example. We'll also kind of consider, if you are somebody with a medical condition or a disability that kind of means your needs can't reasonably be met by a private accommodation provider. We can look at that as well. But we think this is a good thing that we're able to offer here. It does mean that, if you get your application in on time, you know that your accommodation's sorted, because we appreciate there's a lot to consider when you're applying for university and when, before you arrive. There's all the UCAS stuff, there's, getting your personal statement done, and you've got to get the grades. So we think this will help to take the pressure off a little bit. So comparing the residences. So I'm going to try and tailor these next sort of few kind of 2-3 slides towards from the perspective that you are a student, you know that that Leeds is for you and you're coming and you're ready to fill out an application and you're thinking about where shall I apply for my preferred residence on my application to university accommodation. And it is a question that we get asked reasonably frequently in our office is, parents and students will ask, where is the best place to apply for a new student? And you'll probably see as we go on, the variety is there's so much diversity that there's no real right or wrong answer to that. We think that there's something in the range for everybody. But what works for one person might not necessarily work for another. So we're going to cover a little bit about the kind of different things that you might want to have a think about, and also just give you a kind of flavour for the different type of accommodation that we've got available. So at the very onset of starting your application, I would always advise the best thing to do is take a look around our website. Again, that's accommodation.leeds.ac.uk. And get a feel for the sort of the different residences that are available, the facilities that are at each of these residences. You can see from the slide there, we've got a really kind of diverse range of stuff. We've got catered residences, we've got self-catered ones, we have got stuff that's, kind of modern developments of purpose-built student accommodations, big blocks of flats like Central Village, like you would have seen in the previous slide, or something like Carlton Hill, which is kind of brand new for this current academic year, 23-24. But likewise, we've also got stuff like Devonshire Hall, which is, kind of that traditional university hall type thing that you might think of, with a big dining hall and a quad and that kind of stuff, all that good stuff. So there's a real range in that. So you can find all of the information on those facilities on the website, and it's worth having a think about which, if any of those, is particularly important to you. Because there are things that are common to all of the residences. You will always have a residence site team that will handle things like maintenance. You can get in touch with them if anything's broken. You'll also have a residence life team, which will handle pastoral care and welfare and that sort of thing. And I'll talk a little bit about those later on as well. But there are certain things that are at certain residences, but not necessarily others. So you can see there again on the slide, some have music practice rooms, for example. Might be important to you, might not be, but it is worth kind of getting a feel for the facilities at each of the residences and kind of the character of them as well. Again, the website's packed full of 360 tours, all sorts of stuff like that. So you can definitely get a really good feel for what these residences are like if you take a look at that. So that's a good starting point. Location, likewise, potentially a factor that might help you think about where you're going to apply for. So this is a map of all of the undergraduate residences that we are going to offer in the coming academic year. You'll notice from the map there, the majority of them are a short distance off campus. Leeds is very much a city university. There are some universities in the UK where you go and everything's kind of based on the university campus, and it's built like a little village. That's where everything goes on. That's where everything happens. It's not so much in Leeds. Leeds is a very kind of interconnected city. There's great transport links kind of throughout. So for the most part, students do tend to socialise kind of off the campus. So that's where most of our residences are. And just to put a bit of a kind of a sense of scale to this, the furthest away residence that we're looking at there, number 1, that's Lupton Residences up in Headingley. I would say you could probably walk that in about maybe 35 minutes. But as we look at Headingley Lane and Woodhouse Lane there, you'll find a bus that runs kind of every sort of 5-10 minutes or so, I believe, to get you onto campus. There's kind of cycle lanes up and down there as well. So all of these are kind of really accessible in terms of getting to and from the university campus. They're also in pretty vibrant student areas. So there's that cluster of 3 there in between Headingley and Hyde Park. We've got the one up in Headingley there as well. And these are, again, really kind of vibrant student suburbs. And as such, they're kind of tailored towards what students get up to and their interests. So loads to do up there. So, it's going to be pretty easy to get to and from campus. And these residences generally based in sort of the areas that you're going to be going out and doing stuff as well. Please believe me, people don't all hang around on the university campus in their downtime. Some people will, because of societies and stuff, but by and large, people are in the city centre. You'll see that we've got a cluster of residences pretty close to the city centre there as well, or they'll be up towards the north, Hyde Park and Headingley and that kind of thing. But location might be something that you want to have a think about. Like I say, there is a bit of a misconception that you will be based on campus in your first year, and that's where everything takes place. But it is worth getting a feel for these locations where the residences are. Most are in kind of a 15-minute walk or so. But yeah, the kind of surroundings are worth familiarising yourself with, because two residences could be pretty similar on paper in terms of the facilities that they offer. You could be looking at somewhere like Carlton Hill and somewhere like James Bailey, for example, which is number 3 on the map there. They're pretty similar on paper. They're both kind of modern developments, all en suites and that kind of thing. But Carlton Hill is right near the city centre. Again, that's something that might work for one person. You've got all of the kind of amenities of being in the city centre on your doorstep. But if you look out of your window at James Bailey, again, that's number 3 on the map, you're on the back of like a nature trail. It's a sort of leafy green suburb type of thing. So worth thinking about which of those options would work for you. And again, worth getting a feel for the areas that the residences are based in. So catered accommodation, again, something that you might want to think about, because it can really help you narrow down your options. That residence on the picture there, by the way, that's Devonshire Hall. That's where I was talking about before, the kind of typical kind of old school traditional university halls. It's a really great residence. So catered accommodation in a nutshell, it's where you'll get some of your food included in your rent. So what that looks like and how that works may be kind of different depending on which catered residence you're at, if catered is for you. So we have a couple of on-campus catered residences. If you're based on the campus and you're a catered student, you will get an account, a campus meal plan card, where you get a balance of credit that you can spend at the refectory, which is based on campus near the student union. So catered works really well for some people. That might work really well for you. If you're off campus, again, it'll be a little bit different from if you're based on campus. They have a kind of in-house catering team at Devonshire, so you have a hall where everyone kind of dines in, and those meals are sort of at set times. So if you are going for catered, it's worth thinking about which of those options works for you. Some people like the flexibility of being able to just take the card to the refectory and eat whenever they want. Some people like the social aspect of kind of group meal times. It works really well for getting to know the people that you're living with, the people at your residence. So again, that's something to think about. But again, catered is a good way of kind of narrowing down your options if you're stuck for thinking about where you want to apply for. It's a good option, I feel, if you're not super confident with, say, budgeting, making a meal plan, sticking to it, all of the kind of washing up and all the stuff that goes along with that. It just frees up your time a little bit to kind of get familiar with the city, get familiar with your course and your flatmates and that kind of thing. It's pretty good value for money, we feel. It's a bit more expensive than the self-catered stuff, but again, it works really well for some people. It's worth mentioning, if you do decide to go self-catered, there are options for you to buy. They're called food bundles. So they are open to people who live in university accommodation, in self-catered accommodation. And it works similar to the kind of the meal plan. You can use them at the catering outlets on campus, but essentially you prepay a balance of credit on to the account, and then you can redeem it at those catering outlets. And they normally go along with some like promotions and deals and stuff like that. So If you do go for self-catered and you're finding that kind of managing those things, again, the meal plan, the shopping, the budgeting, is kind of getting on top of you, there are still options. So self-catered versus catered, it's a good thing to have a think about when you're looking at where to apply for. But we do have both. So, yeah, like I say, if you go and look at the website, I'm sure you'll see there's a really, really diverse range of stuff available. We really do hope that there's kind of something for everyone in that range as well. So in terms of making an application, so applications open on the 1st of November. So they're open now for the coming year. Generally speaking, the application deadline is the 1st of July for new students. But it's worth noting, if you currently have Leeds as your insurance choice, obviously, because you need to have Leeds as your firm choice essentially before you start your application. So if Leeds is insurance at the moment, it's not going to be firm until sort of after A-level results day. So in that case, hopefully you'll get into your firm choice. But if it gets to A-level results day, you've not got the results, we'll open back applications back up again, and you can apply up to the end of August. So we'll extend the guarantee for that. So as long as you get your application in by the end of August, if that's the case for you, still covered by the accommodation guarantee. For a lot of people, though, the application deadline is going to be the 1st of July. So just keep those kind of dates in mind, depending on which applies to you. So costs. There's a real range of accommodation, and therefore there is also a range of costs as well. So these are weekly costs for the current academic year on the slide there. They're kind of subject to approval each year, but I don't think they'll be enormously different from what we're seeing here. So you can see they're self-catered, ranges from 110 to 210 pounds a week, and then catered, a bit more expensive. Again, you get some of your food included in that as well, 187 to 244. The catered contracts, generally speaking, are slightly shorter. That's because, oftentimes students finish their exams and they leave, they go home. So we don't want to charge people for catering if they're not going to use it. Some people stay a bit longer though. But generally those catered contracts are a little bit shorter. In any case, your rent will include your energy costs, your internet access, some laundry facilities or credits. That could look two different ways. Either you will have washer dryers in your kitchen, some of those have those, or there will be like communal laundry rooms, and we will give you some credit to use those laundry rooms. You'll get basic contents insurance with your rent as well, and you'll also have a off-peak gym membership for the Edge, which is the sports facility on the campus. It's worth noting, there's all of the amenities in the kitchens as well that you need to kind of to get stuck in as well. So there won't really be kind of too many extra costs on top of what is on the contract when we send it you. In terms of payment options, there's a few ways to handle that. So when we make an offer of accommodation, that's normally in the summer after the application deadline has passed. We'll tell you how much it's going to cost for the full year, and there's nothing to pay right away, but you do pay a £200 deposit if you want to accept that offer of accommodation. In terms of paying for it, there's a bit of flexibility there as well. You can pay it all up front if you want. You can pay it in 3 installments. That tends to be sort of termly. That can be quite good for people. It tends to line up with when the student loan payments come in, that sort of thing. Or you can pay it in 8 installments as well. Those tend to be at the start of the month, over 8 months. You can do it by direct debit. You can set a direct debit up to do it, or you can do like a manual card payment. So as long as you can kind of keep track of when the rent is due, you can go online. We've got a payment portal where you can pay the instalment that way. A bit on the application process. So, as we say, applications are open now, and you can let us know one preferred residence as part of the application process. And along with that, you can give us some more kind of general preferences as well. So that might be something like you particularly want a self-catered or a catered accommodation. It may be that you're looking for something low cost. It may be that you're looking for an ensuite room or a room with a shared bathroom. All of this kind of stuff. We're generally quite good at getting people into their first choice of residence, but we'll look at the other stuff and give you the best kind of closest available match if we're not able to do that. I'll talk a little bit more about allocation on the next slide. You can include any additional requirements in your application. So that may be something like a medical condition or, a disability, or you're an estranged student and you're registered with the Plus program, that kind of stuff. It's important to flag that with us. Some people think, that it's, there's nothing too small to flag with us is what my advice would be for that. If you're flagging a medical condition, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like you're a wheelchair user or it's a mobility thing, or it's about access and that sort of stuff. It may be that you have allergies or something along those lines. Just anything that you think is important for us to know and you might want us to make sort of reasonable adjustments for in the application process and the allocation process. Please do flag those. It'll be picked up by one of our support and liaison officers who can help you find something appropriate. We'll normally, if it is a medical condition that you're flagging with us, we'll normally ask for some supporting documentation to go along with that, just to ensure that we're running a kind of a fair and a transparent process around that. But if your circumstances do change, you can let us know about that up to the application deadline in July. So like I say, we're normally pretty good at getting people into their first choice of residence. You can see there we get normally around 70% of on-time applicants into their first choice. Again, that's on-time applicants, so it is important to get your application in on time. It gives you a better chance of getting the residence that you're after. But certain residences do tend to be more heavily kind of oversubscribed than others. That tends to be stuff that's a bit closer to campus, but like I say, and honestly, it's not all that. Not everything happens on campus, so it is worth keeping in mind the off-campus stuff. But like I say, around 70% of people get into their first choice of residence. You can see there, you can let us know what's important to you in terms of, is it ensuite, is it low cost? You can let us know which of those things is the most important to you. You can kind of assign a priority to one of those. Like I say, in the event that we can't offer you your first choice of residence, we'll consider those other more general things that you've told us about as well. And we're generally able to find a pretty good kind of next best thing. You can also flag dietary preferences with as well, stuff like single sex. We'll do our best to meet that, particularly with stuff like dietary. We may be able to kind of buddy you up with someone as well who has a similar diet. If we're not able to kind of make complete flats with people who follow that diet, we may be able to kind of buddy you up with a person or a couple of people who have kind of similar dietary preferences as well. So preparing to move in. So this now is if we've made you an offer of accommodation, you're wanting to accept it, and things to think about before you move in. So I've already mentioned the food bundles. That's a good thing to keep in mind, like I say. And you can think about this after you've moved in as well, to be honest. If you're feeling a bit under pressure with kind of cleaning and budgeting and ordering food, that kind of stuff. Food bundles, good one to keep in mind. We are partnered with Uni Kit Out, which can offer you bedding and kitchen packs. Good idea to kind of, what I would recommend, again, on the website, we have a page on the website called What to Bring. And it goes through what we think is worth bringing with you, what you can maybe afford to wait on. That might be stuff like sort of kitchen appliances and that kind of thing. It's worth bringing like your crockery and your cutlery with you, obviously. But then, if you're looking at stuff like sandwich toasters or whatever, you might get there and someone else has brought one. So just have a think about that. Again, that information is there via the website. But you can order through Uni Kit Out bedding packs, kitchen packs. You'll have all of the stuff that you need to kind of get going with your time in residences. What we don't include as standard is bedding and cutlery and crockery for your kitchen. We'll give you stuff like an iron, there'll be a microwave in there, there'll be fridges and space for you to keep all of your stuff, vacuum cleaners, mop buckets, that sort of thing. But kitchen kind of cutlery, crockery and bedding, you bring that yourself. So if you don't want to load all of that stuff in the car, Uni Kit Out offer a service where you can order it and they'll deliver it to your residence ahead of you arriving. You can upgrade your gym membership. Like I said, you get an off-peak gym membership included in your rent, but you can choose to upgrade that if you want to do so. We run an online induction process, which is really useful. You can book an arrival slot to let us know when you're going to come. Helps us manage the kind of check-in process for students who are arriving. You can arrive at any time, essentially. We can arrange for key collection at any time that works for you. But it is good to kind of book an arrival slot so that we can kind of manage when those peak times are and keep things running as smoothly as possible. I'd recommend looking at the Residence Life welcome activities as well. If you go to their website, that's residencelife.leeds.ac.uk, and the next slide will be a bit more on Residence Life. But they run loads of stuff that you can get involved with when you're first arriving. There'll be welcome activities that are for everyone in all of the university residences, but there'll be ones that are specific to your residence as well. So that's a really good way to kind of get familiar with other people who you're living with. So Residence Life. There's a lot to Residence Life, and again, I would recommend checking their website out because there's tons of useful information. Again, with getting prepared to move in, it's really useful. If you take anything away, please do take that away. Obviously, take the deadline away. But do engage with Residence Life because they offer tons of support. You can go onto their website and you can join kind of the social network groups for your residence. When you move in, there will be social calendars in your kitchens and in the communal spaces. So they do, essentially what they do is just helping students get the most out of their time in residences and making sure they're having a good time. So that includes all of the fun stuff, all of the social stuff, a calendar for events, that goes on all year round. Particularly tight focus at the start of the year because we appreciate it may be your first time away from home. You're anxious about getting to know people. So there'll be loads and loads of events to kind of facilitate that happening. They have this whole social program as well. And that's where students are able to kind of, in residence, are able to arrange their own events. And that's great. We think that we're, working at a university, we all think that we're really cool and we know what students want. But sometimes it's best to just, let them do their own thing and arrange their own events. So that's what the whole social program gives you the opportunity to do. So definitely think about getting involved with that. So there's loads of fun stuff that Residence Life do, but they also take care of this kind of serious stuff as well. So they deal with pastoral care and welfare and that kind of thing. So at each residence, you'll have a Residence Life warden. That's a member of university staff. And they will provide that kind of dedicated pastoral care, and they're supported by Residence Life assistants as well. And the Residence Life assistants live at the residences. and they're available kind of out of normal office hours. And they're senior students. They're students who've lived with us before, know what it's like to live in university residences, and they can help you navigate some of the challenges that you hope you won't experience, but you may experience, unfortunately, as a new student. Like I say, they're available out of office hours, so hopefully, mainly what you'll be speaking to them for is stuff like, you've been out and you've left your keys on the bus or something like that. But again, please do bear Residence Life in mind, because they're a really great team. They provide a really useful service. You can follow them there. That's their Instagram handle in the bottom of the page there, at UOL_res_life. So be sure to follow them for some more information. And again, this is just a little snapshot of some of the things that they do. Kind of barbecues, bowling trips, wellness classes, yoga stuff. You can volunteer with the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. They'll take you out to kind of local attractions and destinations and get you familiar with Leeds. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to kind of plug into the little communities that you can get involved with as a student. So again, really worth keeping in mind, because being a student, it's the best opportunity to be able to kind of build those networks and those communities and stuff. So again, please do keep Residence Life in mind. So on to private accommodation now. So this is mainly most likely for your kind of second year, third year. Probably feels a million miles away now, but it is worth keeping in mind. We find that most students tend to come and stay with us in their first year, and then maybe they'll buddy up with people, they'll meet people in the first year, and they'll go off and rent something in the private sector in those kind of popular student suburbs we were talking about before, Headingley, Hyde Park, the sort of locations where some of our residences are based. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. You can go straight into private accommodation if you want to. Only things to kind of can keep in mind are what's included in your rent. Are there utility bills included in the rent, your internet, your insurance, the stuff that we bundle in with the rent? Are you going to have to pay for that separately? Are you confident managing that? That sort of thing. But this section, and we're kind of coming to the end of the talk now, but this section is mainly just to, if nothing else, just to assure you that there is loads and loads of private accommodation available in Leeds for your second year and for your third year. Oftentimes you'll get towards the end of the year and private landlords will start encouraging people to book accommodation really early, and they'll say it's all going to run out, you've got to book something now, otherwise you'll have nowhere to live. And it's not normally like that. In a normal year, it's not really like that. There's usually bed spaces left over, to be honest. So this is just to say, there's loads of accommodation out there, and there is help in finding it from the university as well. If you're looking for private accommodation, where we would recommend starting the search is with Unipol. They're a non-profit organisation that provide a link for students to the private sector. So the universities in Leeds work quite closely with them to help agree on a code of standards. So generally that means if a landlord advertises their property through Unipol, it should be of a good standard. And if you find that it's not, if you're having issues with your landlord, Unipol can normally mediate in those discussions that you're having with your landlord as well, and kind of you've got someone in your corner. So really useful contact to keep in mind for your second year, for your third year. Student Advice Centre, they're based, I believe, in the Student Union. They're really helpful as well. They can offer you house hunting advice. They sometimes have like networking events for house hunting, that sort of thing, as do Unipol, I believe, actually. And they offer a contract checking service as well. So that's a free service. So you can take your private contract in, and someone will have a look over it for you and just make sure that everything seems above board. Everything seems okay. So again, that's a bit further down the road, something to think about potentially for your second year, third year, or you may want to go straight into private accommodation. But Like I say, there's plenty of it available, and there is help in finding it if you need it. So keep that in mind. So that's about it from me. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I say, if you do have any questions, do feel free to get in touch with us in the accommodation office. We'd be more than happy to help you. You can find some of the university's general sort of social media handles just there. But again, if you want to speak with us in accommodation specifically, if you just head to our website, it's accommodation.leeds.ac.uk, and you'll find all of our contact details there, along with some really useful information about accommodation. But all that remains for me is to say thank you for joining me, and we really hope to see some of you in the next academic year. Thanks.